All right, picking up where we left off, it says solve each quadratic using any method, show all of your work. So while you can use any method for most of these, okay, some are easier than others, which is what the video that Mrs. Fry made is supposed to help you with. So for instance, for this first one, well, yes, you could expand this whole thing and solve and get quadratic formula, etc., etc. Square roots is going to be the most efficient method for this. So taking a square root of both sides, because you already have a term squared, I'm going to get x minus 4 equals plus or minus the square root of 36. Well, the square root of 36 means plus or minus 6, which means I have x equals 4 plus or minus 6, because I just added 4 to both sides. Well, I'm going to have x equals 4 plus 6 and x equals 4 minus 6. So 4 plus 6 is 10. So I'm going to have 10 comma 0, and I'm going to have negative 2 comma 0. Or if you wanted to, because it doesn't say they have to be ordered pairs, you could just write x equals 10 and x equals negative 2. Either form would be acceptable because it's not specific. All right, this next one says that we suggest taking a GCF, or greatest common factor, just like in Teach Me How to Factor. So the thing that both of these terms have in common is an x. Well, if I take x squared and I divide it by x, I'm left with just another x. If I take negative 6x and I divide by the x, I'm left with negative 6. So minus 6 equals 0. Zero product property says I can set each one of those things equal to 0. So I get just x equals 0 and x equals 6. So I can write my coordinate points if I'd like to, or I could just write x equals 0, x equals 6. When you have two terms, greatest common factor is going to be what you want to look for first. All right, in this one, I think factoring is going to be the most efficient method. So I'm looking for things that multiply to 20 while adding to negative 9. Multiplying to 20, hopefully you came up with 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. Well, these are the ones that are going to get you to 9. So I'm going to have x and 4, x and 5. The Teach Me How to Factor video says if you have addition in the back, then your signs will double up like a Wendy's double stack. So now I get x minus 4 equals 0 and x minus 5 equals 0. X equals 4, x equals 5. Again, I can write them as coordinate points. 4 comma 0, or 5 comma 0, or I could just write x equals because the directions do not specify. Number 15. Again, you can use any method that you want, but here our suggested method for you would be to use the quadratic formula. To use the quadratic formula, we have to have everything set equal to 0, so I'm going to add 6x to both sides. And I want to identify my A, my B, and C. So using the quadratic formula, x equals opposite of b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac, all divided by 2a. Cleaning up what's underneath that radical, okay, we're going to get 36 minus 44. Well, 36 minus 44 is going to end up with the square root of negative 8. So I need to take that negative 8 and I need to do some side work to break it down. I know I'll have negative 1, 2, and 4. Well, the square root of negative 1 is I. The square root of 2 is just the square root of 2. And the square root of 4 is 2. So I'll get plus minus 2I root 2. So now I'm at the point where x equals negative 6 plus or minus 2I root 2 all over 2. There's a couple different ways that you can break this up, okay? I like to just say negative 6 over 2 plus or minus 2I root 2 over 2. So we can see this is going to go down to negative 3. Those 2's are going to cancel. I root 2. This would be a time where if it's not asked to write in intercepts, probably not necessary. X equals negative 3 plus or minus I root 2. All right, last one. It says extra credit because it will appear like this in extra credit for your test, right? We always write our practice test to match the real test. So for this extra credit, it says solve using your choice, which means you have to choose. You can choose any method that you want. Your final answers are going to be 3 plus the square root of 89 over 8, and x equals 3 minus the square root of 89 over 8. So remember, it's your choice, okay? I would at least start by getting things equal to 0, and then asking yourself, do you really want to try to factor if you have a 4 in front? Do you really want to try to complete the square if your b value is an odd number? In which case, quadratic formula is probably your best method. All right, that should help you with your practice video, or sorry, your practice test. Remember that the key is not only just found in this video, but it's also on Schoology. So if you want to look back at any answers, all of my work is shown there as well. Also, if the video went too fast, you can always go back and watch it again. You could watch it at half speed. You could watch it and pause it. Any of these things will help you if the explanations themselves are moving too quickly.